One of the things that we have to realize is we need to be Genesis 1 Christians and not Genesis 3 Christians. Because so much of the biblical worldview is laid out in Genesis 1 and 2. Most Christians today begin reading and most pastors begin preaching from Genesis 3. And so they do not have an understanding of what it means to be a human and why we are here on this planet. So we are going to do 3 sessions that unpack the concept of the image of God, because women and men are made in the image of God. And what does this mean? To know who we are, we need to understand who our designer is. And then we need to understand the architectural design, as it were, of what it means to be made in His image. So this first of these 3 is called the structural view. All 3 are going to be taken from Genesis 1:26 through 28. And in this graphic, you will see that I have laid out these verses in 3 paragraphs and identifying what each part of the verses is speaking about. So I will read this, and we will then, in this session, look at the structural view. Genesis 1. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness." That is the structural view of the image of God. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him. Male and female, He created them. That is the relational view of what it means to be made in the image of God. And the last aspect is the functional view. And this is the cultural commission. You have the Great Commission. But before you have the Great Commission, which is actually the second commission, you have the first commission, and that is the cultural commission. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. And God blessed them. And God said to them, "Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the earth." That is the social commission. And subdue it, and have dominion. That's the developmental commission. Over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. So it is these 3 verses that are the framework for understanding what it means to be human, what it means to be made in the image of God, and why we are here. So the structural view of being made in the image of God is simply that human beings are like God. What kind is man? We have an affinity with other creatures because we are a creature. We are creatures. We are biological beings. We are, on this level, we are animals. But we're not animals in the sense of Darwin and evolutionary teaching. We are not simply animals. We also are made like God. So we have a relationship in our nature to God, and we have a relationship in our physical nature to other created things. We are unique in kind. We speak of mankind or humankind. Not God and not mere creatures, but we occupy that space between earth and heaven, between time and eternity. The word Adam is used in three ways. The generic name for human beings, for the human species. Then it is used as the name of a particular human being, Adam, the first human being. And it is named a name for the male of the species. The first Adam was responsible for the fall. So the word Adam, part of what it means, it is to identify as a generic term of the human race, of humankind, of mankind. And that means there are female Adams and there are male Adams. There are female humankind and there are male humankind. And this stands in contrast to the words husband and wife. We are all humankind. We are all Adam in that sense. But we are not all female or male. We are not all simply husband or wife. There is the distinction. So when we speak of mankind, we are both like and unlike God. There are two aspects of God's nature. The communicable aspects, these are the shared aspects that God shares with us. And then there are the incommunicable aspects where we are unlike God. We are not in common with God. So God's incommunicable aspects, He is self-existent. We are not self-existent. God is self-existent. I am who I am, or I am because I am. God is unchangeable. He never changes. We're changing all the time. He has not given us His unchangeable nature. He is eternal. We are finite. He is omnipresent. He stands outside of space and time. We are limited by space and time. So there are aspects of God's nature that He does not share with us. And then there are aspects of God's nature that He shares with us. These are the communicable aspects of His nature. So being human is to be like God. If you ask Darwin or evolutionism, where does man come from? Man is a highly evolved animal. We are more like chimpanzees. This is where we have come from. But when God chose to make us as human beings, where did He look? He looked at Himself. We are made in His image, and this is an incredible revelation. You are more like God than you are like a dog. You're more like God than you are like a monkey. We are not to worship images. But when God made you, He made an image of Himself. When God made you, He looked at Himself for the pattern. So God has shared attributes of His nature with us. We have a mind. This is the attribute of intelligence. We can think, we can reason, we can have an imagination. God imagined the universe and built it. He gave us that part of His nature to imagine. and think of all the things that human beings have brought forth into reality from their imagination. Was this in the Garden of Eden? No, it wasn't. Where did it come from? Some human imagination. How many of you watching this have been to Narnia? Where is Narnia? Where did it come from? It came from the imagination of C.S. Lewis. How many of you have been to Middle-earth? Where did it come from? It came from the imagination of J.R.R. Tolkien. We are made in the image of God. He is the great imaginer. He imagined the universe and built it, and we are like Him. So He has given us minds. He's given us a heart. This is the seat of our emotions. It's the seat of moral attribution. We are moral creatures. We can make moral decisions between right and wrong. And we have will, the attribute of purpose. We can make decisions. And in fact, we can make decisions that will affect not only time, but eternity. The Hindus have a saying that you throw a pebble into a pond and it makes no ripples, and human beings are like that. They're like a pebble thrown into the pond and they make no ripples. But the Bible says, no, you throw a pebble into the pond and you make ripples that go on forever. Think of that. You can make decisions that impact time and eternity. How can this be? Because you're not an animal. You are the image of God. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him, male and female. He created them. This is not a man's world. This is God's world. And when He wanted to create His image in human form, it took male and female to fully reflect His image. Human beings are the connection between heaven and earth. Man is the one creature whose eyes are towards heaven and whose feet and hands are in the soil. And we need to keep this in mind, so we look to the heavens and we are fully engaged here on the earth. Man is the connector for the carrying out of the heavenly mandate on earth. What is heaven's mandate? Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and have dominion over creation. A good friend of mine is named Elizabeth Humans, and she is the founder of an organization called Chrysalis International. And she has made the profound observation that there are no ordinary children. And she says this: every child has a name. Every child has a passion. Every child has a story and a place in history, a place in His story. There are no ordinary children. When you see a poor child on the street, maybe a homeless child, maybe a beggar, what do you see? Do you see the rags of their clothes, their bare feet, their sores, their bloated belly? Do you see them as you would see a stray cat or a stray dog? Or do you see them the way God sees them? They are the very image of the living God. When you look at a little girl dressed in rags, what do you see? Do you see her like a stray dog or a stray cat? Or do you see her the way God sees her? She could become a scientist or a physician and grow up and find a cure for cancer. Or she could become the president of her country. How is this? Because she is not primarily identified by her animal characteristics, and she is not primarily identified by her poverty. Don't see her as a stray dog or a stray cat. Look at her with the eyes of God and see that she is made in the image of God. And what would her life be like if she could discover that this is who she is and this is how she has been made? There are no ordinary children. And this little girl is no ordinary child. Genesis 1:26. God said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule." We are co-creators with God. We are put here to govern. We are put here to take what God has made and to do something with it. There's an incredible story that I would love to share with you about the landfill harmonic.
Mi nombre es Ada Maribel Ríos Bogado, tengo 13 años y toco el violín.
Me llamo Juan Manuel Chávez, más conocido como Baby, tengo 19 años y toco el cello. Este cello está hecho de una lata de aceite, la madera tirada en la basura y las clavijas son de una vieja cuchara para golpear la carne y para hacer el ñoquis. Y suena así.
Una comunidad como Caldeura no es un lugar para tener un violín. De hecho, un violín cuesta más que su casa.
En ese grupo acá mismo encontramos el colador de violín. Y de ese empezamos los instrumentos reciclados. La familia que acá vive recicla todo lo que hay en la basura y se vende. No pensaba antes que yo voy a hacer ese instrumento. Y me siento demasiado feliz cuando estoy viendo a un niño que está tocando un violín reciclado.
Cuando ya escucho el sonido del violín siento como mariposas en el estómago, así una sensación que no sé cómo voy a explicar.
La orquesta de instrumentos reciclados es una orquesta que toca instrumentos hechos con la basura.
1, 2.
música estaría decore y por ahí.
La gente se da cuenta que no tenemos que tirar la basura muy fácilmente. Y no tenemos que desechar a las personas muy fácilmente.
And this is a group of young children whose parents work on the garbage dump in Paraguay. And a man came to work on the garbage dump, a scientist, and he went there to deal with the issue of ecology and land stewardship on a garbage dump to try and solve some of the problems of the garbage dump through land stewardship. And he had an incredible idea. His initial idea did not work, but he had another idea. There's all these children whose parents work on the garbage dump, and they have potential. And what he did, he taught people who were working on the garbage dump to take trash from the garbage dump and make classical musical instruments from the garbage. And he taught the children of the people working on the garbage dump how to play classical music. And he created the landfill harmonic orchestra. And their story is an incredible story of the transformation of the lives of these children who were born in poverty, who now play classical music in an orchestra, and the instruments from the orchestra were made out of trash from the garbage dump. How can they do this? Because they are not like the stray dogs and the cats that are wandering on the garbage dump. They are made in the very image of the living God. Man is made in the image of God. Animists and postmoderns see that man is a ghost. Man is simply a spirit. And what makes us human is our ghostness, is our spiritness. On the other hand, atheism sees man as an animal. We have a mouth and a stomach. We are like other animals. We consume things. And we can see the whole nature of modern society built around this image that we are consuming animals. We do not have inherent dignity. Our dignity comes from what we have and the money that we make so we can consume things. Our dignity is defined by what we have, not who we are. And this is the place that feminism has been born out of. Because feminism does not understand that women, as feminine, have significance. They only have significance when they are producing things and consuming things. And what does biblical theism say? No. Our core identity is the image of God. There are two concepts here coming from two worldviews. You have Judeo-Christian theism and maternal feminism. And you have atheism, which produces modern egalitarian feminists. In Judeo-Christian theism, we see all human beings being made in the image of God. We see all of human life as sacred. We protect human life from conception to natural death. We support life. We are pro-life. Atheism sees that we are simply animals, highly evolved animals. And here in the atheistic framework, it is survival of the fittest. It is the fit who survive. The Germans had a phrase for this: life unworthy of life. And in the Third Reich, they took people whose lives they deemed unworthy of life, and they sent them to the gas chambers. Jews, homosexuals, handicapped people, people who were mentally slow, they were deemed as life unworthy of life, and they were killed. And in today's world, we have a woman's right to choose. Because a woman's right to choose is more significant than a human's right to life. And so you have pro-choice, which really doesn't mean choice. It means pro-abortion. I want to share, as we come to the end of this, some people's choices, a mother's choice. Here is a woman named Carrie Lynn Decline. She was a 37-year-old mother of 6 children. And she was pregnant. And she was diagnosed with cancer. And the doctors recommended an abortion so they could treat her cancer and save her life. And Carrie refused the abortion and thus refused the cancer treatment. And she gave birth to a little girl. And the little girl was named Life Lynn. And 3 days later, after she gave birth, to her daughter, she died. Carrie sacrificed her own life for her baby's right to live. She thought more of the other than she did of herself. Another mother's choice, Irene Villar, AKA, she calls herself the abortion addict. She proudly calls herself the abortion addict. She's the mother of 15 children, meaning she conceived 15 children. And in the course of 16 years, she aborted 15 children. And she wrote a book called Motherhood, Testimony of an Abortion Addict. She had a different worldview than Carrie Lynn. And that worldview led to a very different understanding of who she was and what it meant to be a mother. Irene Villar was a narcissist who put her ego above the lives of her 15 babies. Ideas have consequences. You begin with a biblical worldview and you understand that we are made in the image of God and our children bear the image of God. You begin from an atheistic worldview and you become the center of the universe. And your life becomes the most important thing, and your career is more important than your being a mother of your children.
I am a man with Down syndrome, and my life is worth living. Sadly, across the world, a notion is being sold that maybe we don't need research concerning Down syndrome. Some people say prenatal screens will identify Down syndrome in the womb, and those pregnancies will just be terminated. It's hard for me to sit here and say those words. I completely understand that the people pushing this particular final solution are saying that people like me should not exist. That view is deeply prejudiced by an outdated idea of life with Down syndrome. Seriously, I have a great life. I have lectured at universities, acted in an award-winning film and an Emmy-winning TV show, and spoken to thousands of young people about the value of inclusion in making America great. I have been to the White House twice, and I didn't have to jump the fence either time. Seriously, I don't feel I should have to justify my existence. But to those who question the value of people with Down syndrome, I would make 3 points. First, we are a medical gift to society, a blueprint for medical research into cancer, Alzheimer's, and immune system disorders. Second, we are an unusually powerful source of happiness. A Harvard-based study has discovered that people with Down syndrome, as well as their parents and siblings, are happier than society at large. Surely happiness is worth something. Finally, we are the canary in the eugenics coal mine. We are giving the world a chance to think about the ethics of choosing which humans get a chance at life. So we are helping to defeat cancer and Alzheimer's, and we make the world a happier place. Is there really no place for us in the world? On a deeply personal note, I cannot tell you how much it means to me that my extra chromosome might lead to the answer to Alzheimer's. It's likely that this thief will one day steal my memories, my very life, from me. This is very hard for me to say, but it has already begun to steal my mom from me. Please think about all those people you love, the way I love my mom. Help us make this difference. If not for me and my mom, then for you and the ones you love. Let's be America, not Iceland or Denmark. Let's pursue answers, not final solutions. Let's be America. Let's make our goal to be Alzheimer's free, not Down syndrome free. Thank you. About abortion, I don't want to make it illegal. I want to make it unthinkable. Politicians change laws. I want to change people's hearts. I want to change people's hearts by changing people's minds and hearts together.
This is a debate in Congress. What do we do with people like Frank Steffens? No, you don't deal with them with abortion. The ultimate test is always the value of human life conceived in rape. And in most cases, there are exceptions to rape and incest. And you hear the rape exception, I'm pro-life except in cases of rape. But you could rephrase this, a child conceived in rape does not deserve to live. Now I know these are hard words. But here are some people conceived in rape. This is Ryan Baumberger. And he said, I should have been aborted. At least that's what the pro-abortion side believes. I am always that 1% that is used 100% of the time to justify abortion. My birth mom experienced the horror and the violence of rape, but chose to be stronger than her circumstances. Her courage not only enabled me to live, but to be adopted and loved. He should have been aborted, but he's an adult now, and he has a life. And he says that it was his mother that had the courage to let him live. This is a pro-life lawyer, and she is seeking to outlaw abortion in circumstances of rape. And she says this, have you ever considered how really insulting it is to say to someone, I think your mother should have been able to abort you? She's had people tell her that. It's like saying, if I had my way, you'd be dead right now. And that is the reality with which I live every time someone says they are pro-choice or pro-life in the exception of rape. Because I absolutely would have been aborted if it had been legal in Michigan when I was an unborn child. And I can tell you that hurts. This is Valerie Gatto. She was Miss Pennsylvania in 2014. She was a product of rape. I believe God put me here for a reason, to inspire people, to encourage them, to give them hope that everything is possible, and you can't let your circumstance define your life. All human life is sacred. A woman's life, a preborn baby's life, a black life, a white life, a Down's life, an elderly life, a baby girl's life, a child conceived in rape. Her life is sacred. Why? Because we're made in the image of God.